Hey, what's up everybody? BDL 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so it's been some days, some real days, since I've really done anything that I prefer to do. The rain has kind of kept me in, and then yesterday we had another bout with hot water heaters breaking. And I noticed it on Thursday night. I started to take a shower and it was kind of warm water coming out, and by the time the shower was over with, it was cold. And I was like, that's not normal. Certain that's not normal. And the following morning I got up and the water was ice cold. Now mind you, it's storming outside, so the cold water is even colder. So it was like, okay, I'm gonna have to take a cold shower or take a what my homegirl Delicia calls a hoe bath. So I took one of those where I took the washcloth, did all the soap stuff, but I didn't actually get underwater. And so because of it, I decided not to leave the house. This is how I am, man. I'll tell you, I'm one of those people that don't like really going anywhere unless I've had a full body shower. It's just a thing about me. And I'd already been in the house for 2 days trying to escape the rain because it was raining that hard, and the type of shoes I got ain't really for all this stomping around in the rain like last year. So it was like, all right, that's kept me in the house for 3 straight days, and I had no interest in doing that, to be honest with you. I wanted to be out. And in wanting to be out, it was just kind of like I'm in the house doing stuff I didn't necessarily find myself feeling as productive as I like to. But I can tell you this, I did a playlist last night, Valentine's Day playlist, Delicity 410, and enjoyed the music, and finally got back to it after what, 2 or 3 weeks of not doing it. So this has been a quiet year for me for music playlist creation. Y'all know I do 1-2 a week, but as of late, over the last 2 months, it really ain't been that much music to really work through. And although I can make playlists off of anything, really, I could do old school and stuff like that, I just hadn't been. But I did get a hold of so a handful of new stuff that came out this past week. So I've yet to listen to it or make the art for it, but it was made. It was made last night, and I enjoyed making it. So yeah, you guys can check that out at BDF 44 at Apple Music. Often try to plug that, but yeah, man, it's been it's All-Star weekend for the NBA, so ain't no Lakers stuff to really chat about. I've kind of been decompressing my mind from basketball stuff. I barely watched any of the All-Star stuff yesterday. For me, it was just about just being in a space of mind to meditate, and you know, I worked out a lot, did my thing that way. So, and I ain't really paid too much attention to what's going on in the news as it pertains to different things that I normally would talk about. I was praying about this morning as well. Lord, help me use my voice for the things that we've been continuing to talk about, particularly the situation in Palestine. You know, that's a passion of mine to continue to use my voice for that. But I really haven't been paying attention to what's going on in that situation over the last month or so. I just haven't been looking at it like I normally do, man. Just had my head and my spirit in spaces that just didn't get me the information, didn't have me looking in the direction of where I would ultimately find that. But it's still something I want to pay attention to, and I've been praying about it just as much every day, that the Lord would just touch that situation and bring some more awareness and some clarity to the rest of us about what it is that our role is in that situation. And so that's still on my mind, but it just hasn't been in my face, so to speak. And I honestly don't really know what's going on. Here and there, I'll check on Instagram and hear about this or that, but it ain't like I've been enthralled in everything like I normally would be. It's not. So yeah, man, I can't say, you know, that I've done a whole lot over the last 3 days. The last 3 days, of course, with the rain, I really had a great time listening to music. On the 13th, it was raining hard, and I had taken a day nap. I wasn't having a good stomach day, but I did want to get my exercise in since I hadn't been walking. And I turned on a playlist. I wish I remembered exactly which one it was, but it matched perfectly with the rain itself. And I wasn't even looking for it. I was just kind of randomly going through my playlist and just stopped on something, clicked on it, and it was perfect, absolutely perfect for the mood and for the rain. And I just did my little squad regiment. That was one of the highlights of these last 3 days, man. I'm telling you, it ain't been a whole lot of rest. That's for damn sure. Sleeping in the daytime, for which I don't appreciate, but it's easy to do so when it's raining. And so that's exactly what I've been doing. and eating my vegetables, enjoying the switch up on my diet. I've been putting a lot of mixed vegetables with my rice as of late. I should have been eating like that the whole time. Starting to see changes in my body in a positive way. Starting to see little dents in my stomach from all the exercise that I've been doing, coupled with the change in diet. So that's one of the most positive things I can say. I would have been even better if I could have got the walking that I'm getting in right now every day. But, I think that at the end of the day, it's all about stomach health for me. And so finding something that really worked for me has been a heaven sent. Carrots and squash and what else I put in there? Some type of potatoes, corn. I've been throwing all types of stuff together with my rice, and it's been really good for me. Really good for me. So I'm gonna keep that up. But that's really it, man. I would love to say I've had so much that I've been paying attention to, but I ain't really been focused on much of anything substantial, nothing of substance. It's been a lot of trash on the internet, a lot of conversations about Lakers stuff that I've been trying to keep up on, and listen to some of the conversations surrounding the team. But I've been sleeping a lot, I've been praying a lot, listening to music, sorting through music. That's been what it's been. I spent a good portion of yesterday sorting through music, because I hadn't listened to anything that I'd added to my Apple Music in like 2 weeks. So I had like almost, and this is no exaggeration, almost 23 hours worth of music to sort through. So like that took hours yesterday, sitting down and just finally finding the time to do it. And I did it. I sorted through everything, dwindled it down to like 8 hours worth of music, which is plenty of good. And so now we just get to go back and make playlists for all the stuff that I found. But that was a real task for me. Some of that stuff was no good. A lot of it, as you can clearly see through the hour deduction, it was no good. But yeah, man, that's what it is, man. I've been very blessed to have my hot water turned back on yesterday. They fixed that around 6 o'clock, and just in time for me to have my evening shower. I was very pleased about that. And now we just find out what the day is about. I talked to my boy T yesterday. Hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day, by the way. I didn't do too much, but I talked to some friends and some family and stuff like that. And my boy T is reiterating his concern about my stomach issues. I've been telling him as well. He's like, man, you got to go check that out. You can't keep putting that off. And so that's what's in my mind as well. I got to take care of that. And I'm going to meet up with him at some point, I think today, to pick up the mail that he has over, that has been accumulated once again, trying to get the mail switched from his address to this place, which should have been done ages ago. But problem is, they want me to go down to Long Beach, where his address is, in order to confirm who I am, so that they'll switch the address. And it's like, that's a real hassle, because obviously I'm in North Hollywood. I don't have any plans of going out there. But the good thing is one of the options that I have is right next to a train station. So that I didn't know until speaking with him this morning. He's like, yo, one of them places, it's like a block from the train station out here. So that is information that really helped my mindset, because I had no intention of going out there, and I was just going to let it sit. I wasn't going to change it. But yeah, that's something that needs to be done, so I can get my mail and all that. So yeah, man, I mean, these are the type of things that's been going through my head over the last couple of days. And ain't a whole lot of positive or negative, just neutral stuff going on. And so that's what I was saying, Lord, you got anything that you want me to talk to the people about? Because ain't much going on in my life, and I ain't got a whole lot going on in my head as it pertains to creating content for this channel other than Lakers stuff. So that's really what it is, man. I think at the end of the day, sometimes you just need to decompress from all the different stuff that you talk about. And for the last year and a half, maybe a little less than a year and a half, we've been on this conversation about everything that's going on in Palestine, everything that's happening in the world. And honestly, you guys, it just gets to a point where it's like you've said so much, the content's there, the updates are still, that of watching those who are engaging in that energy continuing on the path of controlling so much and silencing so many. all you can do is regurgitate the same point of view, the same situations that are happening. They're still doing the same stuff. And after watching it for 450 days, you just understand that tomorrow's a new day for them to continue doing the same thing. You know what I mean? And just like yesterday was. And they're on a mission to eradicate these people, and there's very little we can do about it but talk about it. Unless we want to throw ourselves in front of soldiers and, give our lives for the cause, which is urgency that we would love pointed at us if for some reason we had a genocide pointed at us. It just is very depressing. It's been depressing. But it's not hopeless because we've done a lot of talking about it, and I think we've raised a lot of awareness. Those of us who care enough to do so. I think we've done a fantastic job of starting the process of awakening many. And that's ultimately what I think the Lord wants us to do, man. And so I'm going to continue on that path. But as for myself, the era I'm in right now, the moment I'm in right now, I believe I needed to decompress away from that. I've been having a lot of dreams as well that I thought were pretty poignant. It had really nothing to do with that. I'm actually segueing when I say this, but I've been having some pretty interesting dreams. One of the dreams I had was my father was in the dream. It was me, my father, and Joe Budden, believe it or not, Joe Budden, sitting on a couch in my old Hollywood apartment where I grew up in. And my dad was wearing this weird outfit where he had like these exaggerated cowboy boots on, big sky blue cowboy boots that cover up his whole calves. It was weird, like very strange outfit he was wearing. Never seen my father dressed like that in real life, but this neither here nor there. He barely said a word, my dad. He was just sitting on the couch. I was in the middle and Joe was to the right of me. And I'm having a conversation with Joe. And I was telling him that I'm one of those people who've been listening to the podcast for like maybe 5-6 years prior to the falling out between himself and his co-workers who've now since branched off and done their own podcast and been very successful, Rory and Maul. And I was telling him, like, for those who don't pay attention to, haven't been following you guys week in and week out like I had been throughout the course of the pandemic and maybe two years before the pandemic and all through the pandemic, I was locked into the podcast in a way that I haven't been as of late. But like, I was telling them, like, those guys are your real friends. You guys podcasted, and yeah, you had a falling out, and yeah, it may have been some stuff that people don't know if they can trust one another, this and that. But like, I know that whatever y'all have going on ain't bigger than the ability to move past it. If the Lord came down today and told you, yo, these guys only got a couple of years to live or a couple hours to live or whatever the time would be, you would want to fix these issues. You'd want to work it out. Whatever happened, you'd want to make it right. And I think a lot of times when we look at situations like this where people are on the internet showing the example of how to handle conflicts and how to handle friendships and falling outs, I don't know that they've given the best example of how to make it right. How to say that their situation is too far past gone, or maybe some lines are crossed behind the scenes and make it so that they can't get back in good graces with one another. That's far be it for me to understand. But what I can say is, for the example of how to handle situations between friends, I don't think they've done a great job. And that's what I was telling Joe. I was like, yo, I know that the way that y'all used to communicate on them pods, y'all were great examples of how to just put forth an energy that would otherwise provide example of friendship, and have meaningful conversations that help us dig deep and dive into circumstances that would allow for people to find what their true value is in not only the industry of music, but in other industries. Y'all help us understand that we didn't understand, essentially is what I was saying. And I bet if they were in the room with us at the time, we could have a pod right now. You could take them same two dudes that you used to do pods with, sit in this room right here, right now, and y'all could sit down for 3 hours and pod together, because that's how good y'all chemistry was. And I was like, are you trying to tell me, and I was saying to Joe, like, are you trying to tell me that whatever y'all just went through made it so that y'all friendship is no longer valid? That the chemistry that y'all had, y'all wouldn't be willing to reconvene in the future and sit down and create those moments that ultimately got me through some of the most difficult times of my life, I'm having a hard time with that. That's what I was simply saying to Joe. Like, you know, I was listening to y'all the year my mother passed away. That was one of the things I was listening to. I felt like I had a lot of friends in that room helping me through some of the most difficult times of my life. Listening to y'all 2 times a week helped me through my mother's passing, helped me through about where I thought I was going to be homeless, helped me through circumstances where I was alone, in literal isolation. I wasn't talking to hardly anybody. Y'all kept me connected to not only the outside world to a degree, but connected me to the understanding of friendship. I felt like I was in the room with y'all, learning with y'all, staying up on current events because of y'all conversation. And you trying to tell me y'all fell out and can't get back together? No friendship, no way? And you know, basically, as I understand it, it's because Joe didn't have the patience to explain to them his position on the business itself and explain to them the business itself. I was like, don't you think that with that friendship that you had, if they felt like they were cheated out of something, don't you think it would be better if you would have just explained to them exactly what it is that they're involved in so that they wouldn't think that they owed something that they're not? Why would that not be something you'd be willing to do? That's the part that killed me in regards to the conversation I was having in my dream. I was like, you knew these guys didn't know nothing about the damn business, but y'all also friends and you about to have a falling out over business? I could see if they were all business savvy and they all understood what the hell, but if they don't understand it, just sit them down and tell them, yo, this is how it works. This is why you're not getting this. This is why you're not getting that. And this is why I'm expected to have this. I'm putting in this, so therefore I should have that. Because a lot of that from the outside looking in just looked like 2 guys that didn't understand the damn business. And Joe not having the patience, or the ego was already ruptured in regards to certain ways people were approached in regards to these conversations, to where they would, instead of communicating, their egos was doing the communicating for them. It felt like that to me, and watching it from the outside looking in. People felt like they were cheated. Maybe people were doing a little too much or a little too little. It's like, man, I don't know, bro. It just seemed to me that you let the devil rob you of a good thing. And maybe the Lord was able to do good things with bad. Like I often say, something bad happens, the Lord can make something good happen from it. He has a new panel of people that are doing great. Rory and Maul have their own podcast. They would have never did that unless this falling out took place. I'm aware that the Lord can do good with bad. But he can do better with good. And it seemed to me like, you know, it was one of those situations where in the dream I was just explaining to Joe, like, yo, if you were told these dudes only had but so much time to live, or they were told that you only have but so much time to live, I'd imagine you guys would want to sit down and have one more hurrah pod or something. How much time y'all wasted with this stupid feud, you know? Like, how many good pods didn't happen because of this feud that you guys have found yourselves in? Over what? Over money? I just think the money cheats people out of so much in this world because people put so much emphasis on it that they end up cheating themselves out of great opportunities and great moments and great experiences and all these different things that people coerce themselves away from because the money ain't right, or because somebody is asking for more than what they feel like they should get, or anything along the lines of exalting money over the substance of friendship or whatever, what have you. Substance, you know, like actual things that matter. Whether you were in a room where money matters or in the middle of a woods with nothing but fire to keep you warm, like, you know what I'm saying? Those type of things. And for me, it's just like, man, from the outside looking in, Joe puts way too much emphasis on money, and that's why some of his friendships fall apart. That's why he finds himself with such a reputation that he does at times and ain't no good, because it's always an emphasis on money and the being able to exalt himself in rooms where money is most valid. And it's like, man, I'm telling you, God don't give a damn about none of that, brother. He don't care about that. Those same people that you are lifting up to the ceiling or dropping to the floor respectively because of money, God will look at them through a different lens and say, why are you looking at them like this, dummy? That's not how you're supposed to be looking at these people. They're not valued higher than this guy or that guy because they have power in the world. I can wipe the world away. Like, and so because I think this way in regards to a higher power, maybe because I'm forced to, because I'm not privy to doors where money is found, or wasn't raised in a neighborhood where money is king and not having it makes you the butt of all jokes, I respect that people are raised differently. I was afforded an opportunity where I didn't have people constantly telling me if I'm not getting money, my value of a person doesn't exist. I understand that maybe he was raised in a place where that is the case. But that's a demonic space. That's a demonic space. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Ain't nothing good about none of that. It never has been. In our culture, as black people, a lot of times, because we come from nothing, we think that we have to exalt money over everything else for the fear of poverty, which I respect gratefully. I graciously respect that truth. But at the end of the day, do we not know that we've been coerced into that space so that we will not value things above money, so that we won't often see paths that lead to happiness without the presence of the value of capital? It's like, do you not know that there is a cap on how much you can make based on who all has that capital? That they only let you have your portion of wealth if you're willing to play into their game, which ultimately means you're sending poison to self in the form of your own people. Like, we act like we don't understand who controls this and why, and what drives them to provide us capital. They stand between you and your wealth in a lot of cases. And if you happen to get it without them being the ones divvying it out to you, they take it from you. And so we trying to spend our lives trying to get as much money as we can in their environment. Don't you know your leverage against that for which is held over your people's heads is in your indifference to said money? And your willingness to step around that stuff and not need that stuff and not value the things that they tell you must value above your friend and your family and your people and your God. It's the essence of those idols that ultimately takes away our leverage against that for which is meant to destroy us. Their intention to destroy us. And we, in so many different facets and so many different pockets of time around, everywhere you look, you see black people still trying their best to win capitalism. As if that game isn't rigged against you. You can't win capitalism, fam. It's a white supremacist ideology. You are not white. You can't win that game. I don't give a shit how much money you have. You can't win that game. You know, I was listening to somebody talk about, and I'm getting chills as I say this. I was listening to somebody talk about Joe Budden while the subject is still pointed at him because he was in a dream. They were essentially saying that he had gotten into a situation where something happened at his apartment, where he was on the verge of losing the apartment. And essentially what they were saying about him was that he was trying his best to have a certain type of car and a certain type of dress and different things, not dress, but certain type of clothing, so that he could keep up with those he feels he's in competition with, of whom don't look at him as competition. Look at him as foolish for trying to compete with them. That's what was described in what it is I was watching. They were speaking of Joe Budden and his intentions to provide certain things that would otherwise allow him to be competitive in what would be considered a white man's environment. Like, you already beneath them no matter how. It's like putting makeup on a pig. You know what I mean? That's how they look at it. You ain't competing with them just because you have this car, because you have that or this or that. You ain't competing with them at all, because what exalts them is the jewelry of their skin. Beneath the dirtiness of yours is how they perceive it. You can put yourself in the finest car, you can have the nicest apartment, you can do whatever you want in that apartment, but they still look at you as someone like a pig with lipstick on, bro. Trying to live up to what it is that they have for you takes away from the focus that God actually has for you in the life that the Lord created for you. He didn't want you to try to compete with people who look at you as a pig. You know what I'm saying? Like that speaks to a certain finality, not finality, but a certain certainty to what was described, for which I don't know. So I wouldn't necessarily point this at the subject, Joe. I would more so say that this is something that if anybody were to have this be their reality, should probably consider if you're a person of color. I don't know, Joe. I don't know if that's true. That's just what somebody else was saying about it. You see what I'm saying? But that's not the point. The point is that example is something that's true in many people's lives. That they try so bad to compete with those who have the game rigged in their favor. You want to compete with the ruling class like they have what they have because they won some type of competition. That ain't why they have what they have. They did dirt many, many years ago when it was fewer people to compete with in the first place. Rigged so much of what it is that controls that for which divvies out wealth to begin with. And they passed that for which they have down to their children and kept out anybody who would otherwise threaten that power. They didn't earn that. They inherited it. It's not even like, no, you can't compete with them. You can't gain enough billions to have the power that you need in order to make this game your game. You can't win that game. You got to play something else. And so many people who call themselves intelligent people who see the world a million different ways don't understand that the game they're playing is not meant for them to win. Nor pass forward the example of playing that game being something that we should be engaging in. But we can't live without wealth. We can't dare have anything valued above that for which is obtainable, or we perceive as obtainable. I gotta have this. You keep me from that. Now you don't matter. Like that type of thing, that type of mindset and that type of state of existence is poisonous. It's poisonous to friendships and forgiveness, for the proper understanding of what's fairness and what's not. Trying to reach up for measures that are capped off well below what your arm length is. That stuff is not for you. It never was for you. And if you're going to make it so that what it is that makes this world work is for you, you got to take your leverage from that. You can't try to play that game. That game doesn't work for you. It's rigged against you. And the moment we start to understand that, truly understand that, we'll stop valuing massive amounts of wealth and start valuing ways that allow for people to value things and individuals beyond the acquisition of property or wealth or value that is understood amongst men. When you start throwing away things that can't be reacquired for things that are passed amongst men. Money, pass back and forth amongst men. Pass, here. You can meet a guy like Steve Ballmer. Everything you're sitting here willing to live and die for, he can give away right now. Like that presence of that helps me understand that this ain't nothing. This ain't nothing. What is a guy like Steve trying to do? He's trying to own a basketball team and enjoy basketball. He's got $300 billion. And you know what he's trying to do with his time? Enjoy something that somebody who has significantly less than him is enjoying too. All this that you're aiming for, all this that you're trying to impress people with, that only impresses people who are bankrupt in the sense that they need to be impressed by such things. They're not impressed by the presence of God. As I've told you guys many times, I don't need God to make things easier for me. The older I get, the more I realize I don't need him to give me wealth. I need him to give me the strength to live without it and be at peace without it. I don't need him to give me the most beautiful woman. I need him to give me what he wants me to have and make it so that I'm at peace with it. Those are the measures that you should be measuring toward. Instead of trying to make sure you hoard everything so that you have enough to feel comfortable, live without that comfort and pray for prayers that allow you to do so. That's your leverage against a world that's rigged against you. Is that you don't need what they have. You don't need to take it. You don't need to ask for it. You don't need to give your time to it. You don't do none of that. That is your leverage. It's the mentality. And the strength of mentality is your leverage. Not having everything that they have for you. Let me get it. I gotta have it. No, you don't. Oh, I'm losing my mind. No, you need to pray prayers that allow you to not have to lose your damn mind. So that when you don't have those things, you don't need them. Don't need nor want them. Man, I gotta stay in crowd with the Joneses. I need what they have. Man, they got the best clue. They wearing Celine pants. I need Celine pants. No, I want to be able to live without Celine pants. I want to feel just as good in my own pants. You understand what I'm saying? And so that if I get Celine pants, I feel great about them. If I can't afford Celine pants, I'm not sitting here trying to kill people to get them. This is what I understand. This is what I inherently understand just from being a person of faith and allowing the Lord to mold my mind and my life. Not to say that I'm supposed to live in poverty for the rest of my life, but it's to say that if I'm forced to, I'm not longing for realities that ultimately give my soul away so that I can have that wealth. So I'm not throwing my friendships away, throwing my soul away, doing all types of stuff that I don't respect in other people. Throwing people under the dirt, selling my mom and my father down the river. So that I can have what it is that if I just ask God to allow me to live with confidence, I don't have to do any of that stuff. That peace of mind, I'm telling you. A lot of y'all I need to have $1 million vacation. No, you need to be able to live without being able to afford $1 million vacation. There was a line that plays off in my head that Jigga said in his song that brings that to my mind. That was one of the first things I thought about this morning. He was essentially saying that you can't take my girl. My girl's used to $1 million vacations. What you gonna do with that? I'm like, brother, I don't need a girl that needs $1 million vacations for me. I'm not the right man for her. That's not something I should be aiming for. Not based on the reality of my life. I don't need to envy you because you can do that for her. God made you able to do that for her and made her needing that from you so that y'all could be able to see the presence of God in your lives. That is not anything that you should be telling anybody else they should otherwise need so that they can have what you have. Because if they had what you have, they wouldn't be as blessed as they are for having what you have, because what you have is meant for you. So you telling me I need to be jealous of you or otherwise feel like I'm beneath you because you have some ability to do something with something doesn't speak to the understanding of what God is willing to do with something that he gives to me. And that for which is not of God having what it is that's belonging to you or meant for you being in my possession. I don't need Beyonce. I need who the Lord wants for me. Based on what, not just what I need and what my ambition will provide, but what is actually coming, what is actually going to be in my possession. For all of that stuff is already accounted for. Before I even take my first breath, God knows exactly how many dollars I'm going to have, how much I'm going to waste, what my decisions are going to be in a positive way or a negative way. I don't need to want what you have. I need to want what aligns me with the best path. That's the truth. So if I walk over here and take from that man, now all of a sudden I'm on a path somewhere I don't want to be. Maybe I get in that person's car, drive it down the street, I get hit by a car, I get in a car accident. If they got in that car and they align with it, they're not going to get in no car accident because it's meant for them. That's not meant for me. But we're in a world where we're longing for things that don't actually align with the path that ultimately we are supposed to be on. So we're in off path and then constantly trying to make up for it by doing all the wrong things to bring to the path we're on what makes us comfortable. And if you were on the path you were supposed to be on, you would be comfortable. Or you would be strong enough to live in a space for which comfort is not provided. Which is equivalent, just the same if you really think about it. All the different things that you perceive to be so very uncomfortable and so very beneath you. Don't you think that it would hold so much value to just not have those feelings attached to that reality? When we talk about being mathematicians and so strong of will and I go after what I want, how about to be of better wants? To consider what aligns with what it is that's meant for you, instead of trying to go after things that are not, so that you can feel comfortable in your space of wants. People always want to get what they want, but they never want to change the wants themselves. Change the wants themselves. It's what the Lord has essentially helped me understand. But a lot of people are afraid to ask for such things because they can't fathom their mind being changed. They can't fathom being able to live without what it is that they deem comfortable or deem worthy, or what it is that ultimately they have their confidence and their dignity wrapped up in obtaining. I can't live without that. What are they going to think of me? You want to be able to live in a space where you don't care, so that you can value the things that don't have you coursing toward those things instead. So you don't have to give away your dignity to try to chase a dollar, because you don't need that dollar, nor do you need what comes with it, nor do you fear what happens when you don't have it, because you're praying the prayers that allow for that mindset and that reality, and for the comfort and the togetherness that comes with being strong against that for which is in place when you don't have it. And then when all of that's in place, you can start valuing your friends better. He don't understand the business. Yeah, but I don't value the money that comes from doing the business properly over the friendship. So let me discuss with him what he needs to know, even if it doesn't give me the leverage I need in the game I'm playing. I don't need to win the game I'm playing. I need to keep my friends. When you start having those discussions with God, when you start understanding what the Lord wants for you in that way, you're not going to be reaching for stuff that's outside of that realm. You're going to start being comfortable with what it is that's inside of it. I don't need that. I don't need this. If not for the convincing of myself through pressure of others, peer pressure, culture pressure. This is just what we do here. We must go after this, and you just blindly follow whatever and then ultimately take losses that come with making sure you have it. That is not real. The enemy wants you aligned with that type of sorcery. That's not real. When you start selling your people down the river, selling your mama down the river, selling your own self down the river, integrity out the window, time wasted. Why? Because you're afraid to live without what it is that you told yourself you need. I don't need that. I don't need that. I need the strength to live without it. Just like we were saying in regards to conversations in the past. And very recently we had a conversation about how I had come to terms that at times I've been afraid to move on from circumstances, because not only did I not want to live without what it is that I'm holding on to, but I didn't want to walk down that street or that path where that new thing would be, for fear how long it would be before I get what it is I'm ultimately walking down that street to get. Or walking down that street alone, and how I felt empty inside and scared or what have you. So in turn, to keep myself comfortable, I'd stay from walking down those paths and stay with something that I shouldn't be anymore with. You know, something that maybe is worn out its expiration date in my life, but I'm still over here for fear of turning down that corner. All I need to do is ask God to give me the strength to turn down that corner, the strength to endure how long it's going to take before I get what it is that he means for me to have when I go down that corner. That type of mathematics. How do I live without? How do I stand firm in the space where those people shun me for not having it? How can I gain strength and positivity from a space that would otherwise feel like it's degrading, for the sake of not having something that they all agree they should have? That I know I don't actually want to do what it takes to get, because it does certain things that I don't want in my life. I don't want to lose my friends. I don't want to have penitentiary risk. I don't want to have to do this, that, and the third that I know is going to have you mad at me, God. Make it so that I can be strong in the presence of whatever consequences come for not living up to what it is that ultimately they have measured for me. The strength that comes with being able to stand in my own skin, whether I have it or not, particularly not. Because the presence of their approval is nothing but the approval of the consequences that come from doing the things that I shouldn't do, that would ultimately put me in a position to have that approval. They're nodding their head at my losses. They're nodding their head at my pain. They're nodding their head at the end of my life. They're not, when they approve, yeah, you got it. Yeah, that's them saying, yo, we happy that you put yourself in a position to risk everything. Not them being pleased with me because I got it. They're part of the devil's circumference that will coerce me toward it. And when you start looking at the yes men and those who are ultimately providing you the guise for which the culture that coerces you in spaces that are no good for you, when you start looking at those individuals as enhancers of that for which deteriorates your mind and ultimately your life with the chances you take getting what it is that they ultimately tell you need to have, then you understand what it is you're actually involved in when you're dealing with peer pressure, when you're dealing with culture pressure, when you're dealing with people who are all trying to scrounge around the dirt to find diamonds and want you to do the same thing too, so you be just as dirty as them when you find none. None. Going out in the streets doing this, that, and the third, welcoming all types of karma, so you can get the approval of people who are doing the same thing, who are ultimately going to find themselves in same or worse consequences just the same. They ain't smart enough to think their way through that environment, but to just be a part of it instead. To be one more face in the crowd that's leading people toward the worst possible path for themselves, instead of the strength that would align with them being able to walk away from those needs. Things that they tell themselves they need, they're not really needs at all. I'm telling you, this is how Satan has his hand on so many people. This is how he's able to control so many people throughout all this earth and time and space. By copy and paste so many different versions of this. So many people smiling and clapping at you receiving something, or you perceive them smiling and clapping at you receiving something that you shouldn't be going after. Their approval. I was listening to Gilly the Kid say same subject, Jigga. He said he only see Jigga smiling in pictures with billionaires. It's because those ain't real smiles. Those are leverage smiles. You have a certain leverage. I respect that leverage because all that I had to do to get the billions I got. I don't have to do that around other people. That's the privilege of being able to be a billionaire in his world. I ain't got to smile around you. I got to smile around people who have more than me, not you. That's a bankruptcy of spirituality that he engages in willfully. And all his intellect and all of that for which makes him him. At the end of the day, he lives by a rule. The money rules. No matter how much he has. No matter how much he obtains, he never wins. No matter how much power he has to coerce himself from circumstances that ultimately allow for him to have people who are accusing him of things ultimately have their cases dropped, for which is what's recent in this situation. He still can't coerce himself away from the scrutiny and the trauma of being accused. And a lot of those accusations come from being on a path that is aligned with the enemy. Doing the enemy's bidding, doing the enemy's game. So he can keep up with the $1 million vacations that his wife needs. It's always going to lead back to us not doing the math for being able to live without what it is that ultimately we think we need to have. Playing games that are rigged for us to lose. And mind you, Jigga's on my prayer list just like Joe Budden is. I'm not talking about people I haven't prayed about or thought about in a prayerful way in this conversation. These people have been prayed for ridiculously in regards to how much I've prayed for these people over the last several years. Both of them. That's why they're showing up in my dreams, I'd imagine. That's why they're showing up in these content, I'd imagine. So much spiritual bankruptcy in the passion toward money and value, crypto or whatever the currency is going to be tomorrow. I guess they're going to call it bricks tomorrow or whatever the hell y'all going to do, man. It's the same thing, man. At the end of the day, they're willing to throw so much of what God ultimately put us here that can't be replenished away so that you can get things that are passed amongst men left and right. That if you fall right now, somebody's going to pick up off of your dead behind and continue on that process. It lives without you, with you. Why do you have so much value for it? You can't be replaced, but it can. Your friendships can't be replaced, but it can. Your dignity can't be replaced, but it can. Why do you give something away that holds less value? And you perceive you need it. You perceive you need something that can be replaced and giving away things that cannot. It don't make no sense. And you say poor people can't have nice things. In a world like this, where poor people can't have nice things. I mean, that's the point. That's the point. Those who have so much, the last thing they want to do is share. Why? Because they're in a space for which hoarding and being selfish, and being self-centered, and valuing leverage over decency is how you get that much. You gotta first be like that in order to even win the game they're playing. You gotta be bankrupt in that way to even want that kind of money while seeing people suffering around you and understanding that so much suffering is happening. Far be it from you to give away everything you have and being down here with us, having these conversations, coping without having. That's how you perceive it. You rather be crying your Bentley, you rather cry in your mansion, because you figure we crying the same tears. And that's exactly what the devil wants you to think of, what it means to not be guilty of the things you're guilty of. That's exactly what the devil wants you to think in regards to hoarding something that you know could, if you just given a fraction away of it, can ease the pain and suffering and stresses of others. If the game you played made it so that you were unselfish in order to obtain, the more you give, the more you ultimately win, you would fail in those games. The more you consider people who don't have nothing, the more you are exalted for being greater, you would fail in those games. And unfortunately, when it comes to pleasing God, that's exactly what games you should be playing. But people don't value God. People don't value those type of things. They value money. They value the game. They value the acceptance of others, the exaltation of themselves above others, the presence of being comforted in the understanding that they're not poor, that they're not worthless, for which worth is a perception. A perception that is significantly altered by the enemy. The spirit of worthiness, in the presence of beauty, feeling worthy. Because the more you have, the more the pretty girl's gonna want to be around you, right? Substance be damned, we want to be surrounded by nice things, right? That's the point. The devil is very much rooted in the presence of that spirit. He has his fangs in the presence of that spirit. He's able to control the world for decades, generations at a time, because of the spirit of that need from man to man to man. Man must have nice things. Man must feel the dignity of having a lot. Man must have beautiful women. Man must have all these different things, instead of the presence of a prayer that says, Lord, allow me to live without those things, so that my dignity and my leverage in life can be intact without the need to forego it to obtain those things. Kill the devil with a spirit like that. He can't survive with a spirit like that. His cultures can't survive in a spirit like that. In a place where that's practiced, he is shunned. He is shut out. And guess what? Those beautiful women still stand. Those nice things still created. Imagine that. Where were those things dispersed if not for the presence of some type of capitalism mentality that ultimately makes it so that only the few who have the most have the nice? Well, those nice things start scattering about everywhere else and finding substance in their life. That's what happens. They still exist. I don't need none of that shit. None of it. What I need is the strength to live without it. That's it. I don't need any of that. Start teaching our kids that. is you got your leverage against all this capitalistic entitlement. You stand firm in the presence of your community that connect with other communities and have numbers. Y'all don't need to separate one another by way of value and who has more, who has less. When y'all get a lot, you share enough, so that everybody has enough. It's like the worst thing in the world, the capitalists, man. Communism, our skin is gonna turn green if we, if we engage in fairness. Oh my God. Whatever will we do if everyone has enough? How can I be better than you if you have enough? That's the problem with us. In this country, in this Western world, we want to have the presence of things being fair when it's time for us to get what it is that we're supposed to have. But as we stand hoarding so much while so many have so little, suddenly that fairness doesn't come into the equation. Now it's not about everybody having enough. It's about me winning the game. But you want to live in that hypocrisy at the same time of saying, well, I can sue you if you don't give me enough. If for what I put out doesn't bring back what it is that I've agreed to, now all of a sudden we need to be starting to measure a certain way. But that measure don't come out when you see a rich man walk past a poor man, don't give him nothing. Suddenly, that's different. I wonder why our hypocrisy deteriorates once you start having conversations about genocide and things like that. It's because it's what you engage in. The root of what it is you do starts with the understanding that we're going to be in balance so that some can have all and the rest can have so few, or none. We wonder why we got so many enemies all over the world who ain't happy with us. It's because we've done this. And we act like we're not doing it. I'm telling y'all, man. I'm telling you, that's what it really comes down to. And we keep exalting this from our cultures. Within each and every culture, gotta have the most money, have the most beautiful women, go on the most beautiful vacations. And as long as I have that, then I guess I have dignity or something. You ain't got no dignity, man. There's no dignity in that. It's just the agreement amongst devils that this is dignity. That's not dignity. And when your life is over and you have to answer to God, He will explain to you the same thing I just explained to you. That ain't how I wanted you to be. That you were passing that forward makes you culpable to the same suffering that others are going through. And I wish you wouldn't have did it. That's all He gonna say. I wish you would have valued the friendships over. I wish you would have valued others over. I wish you would have valued the belief in me over that for which is fearful of what happens when you don't have. Then I could have coerced you toward what not only would make it so that you have enough, but the strength that comes with all that comes with that understanding. That you do have enough, that you don't need to do this, that, and the third to get that you never needed to worry about what happens if you couldn't get this, because you were going to have that, because I was going to make sure you had it on the path that you were headed. But since you had to be on the path you were on, now you're going to have conversations like this at the end of your life. And the life does end. And all the money that you're coming up with, you ain't figured out no kind of way to preserve your life forever. Nor what the hell you would do if you did. And everything around you deteriorates with your flesh. That's a nightmare. And so that's what I'm telling y'all. With all the mistakes we make, the last thing we really want is immortality. As much as people do that deviates away from what real value is, the last thing you want to do is live with those mistakes forever. A lot of us get to go in our grave comfortably without even seeing that we made those mistakes at all. Not even knowing that those mistakes were made. That's your solitude against culpability. It's your solitude against what comes with doing things that you shouldn't have done that affect others for thousands of years past your lifetime. It's a lot of what your billionaires are doing. Just like the billionaires that came before you did. That affects the lives of so many people. They don't have to sit here. They're in their graves. They don't have to see it. And so I'm telling you, man, if all of us were gifted the understanding of immortality, it would change everything. But even more so, if few of us were, especially the worst of us, we would understand what suffering really comes with that. You don't get to go into your grave comfortably when you've created all types of pain for other people. You have to stay here and watch how it plays out. And that seems like hell to me, man. So that's what I'm telling y'all, man. Let's stop acting like we don't understand this, like we need immortality to teach us that. We don't need that. We know within our short 90 years of life, whatever we get, that a lot of the stuff that we do passes forward pain for others. We understand that because we've seen that in history. So as we continue to exalt these cultures that ultimately put money and things over the value of things that cannot be replenished, like life and love, do understand that that's all you're doing is passing forward the same types of pains that were passed forward to you, that give birth to genocides and suicides and all different type of sides that don't side with the Lord. I kid you not. And that's what meditation has brought to my mindset over the last couple of days. That's what he told me to give you, basically. It's like we're passing forward pain just like our ancestors did. And if we're going to continue to shun one another and keep up these cultures that ultimately exalt things and not things that cannot be replenished, like life and love and unselfishness and good character and dignity, then we're just going to be more of what it is ultimately we are ashamed of. If you're going to be ashamed of a slaver, if you're going to be ashamed of people who conquered things and people who victimized others and all types of weird stuff, then damn it, look in the mirror, friends. We ain't that much better. We ain't that much better. When we turn a blind eye to genocide, silence one another because, we want to keep up the ability of the leverage of those who want to do all different types of stuff they have no business doing all over the globe. Come on, man. Can't speak on that because they ain't control of this. Can't speak on that because they ain't control of that. No, friend. You ain't going to be here that long. You understand what I'm saying? Before you know it, you're going to have that conversation with God about why you let that be the case. That's the point. A lot of people look at you like, there ain't no God. You're going to know soon enough. How much time you think you got? That's the point. That's the exact point of the conversation we have. Before we know it, we're going to have them answers. Before we know it, we're going to be living our second and third and fourth lives if there's such thing as reincarnation. We're going to be in hell burning if that's what it is. You know what I mean? Shut out. That's what I'm here to say, man. A lot of us living like we living forever, but we don't even perceive what living forever actually is, man. And the pain that comes with that. The shame that comes with that. So that's what I'm here to say, man. Ain't much else to my conversation here. I didn't think I'd have much to say, to be honest with you, because I've been, thinking that it wasn't much in there. But I knew the prayers I prayed would allow me to say something that needed to be said. BDL 44, I thank you all for watching.